Talk to you soon. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to reset the room for Lauren and Chris, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hey there, guys and gals. Welcome back to the Multiverse Fundraiser. I am John Pica, the host of Back of the Cereal Box. We are sponsoring the Multiverse Fundraiser, and we're doing panels and programming all day to benefit Valerie. And I've been told I've been mispronouncing her name. I'm going to pronounce it right. Perrine. Anyway, she was Miss Tussmacher in Superman the movie. And we've got some great programming all day, including our very next panel on voice acting with Lauren. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning.
Tell our audience who you are, what you do, and why you are here.
Okay, my name is Lauren. I record as LW Salinas. I'm a voice actor, audiobook narrator, and I've been doing this professionally since 2016.
That's fantastic. And look at that mic rig. That's impressive.
We will get there.
And also joining us is voice actor and FBI's most wanted, Mr. Chris Jowers.
Let's just tell people. Well, thank you.
Chris, tell our audience who you are, what you do, and why you're here.
I am Chris Jowers. I'm a semi-professional voice actor, if you will. I have been working with Chatterbox Theater and now Spoken Signal Radio to deliver online audio content. I'm also an author and a character performer for conventions and charity. So voice acting and character work have been a big part of my creative life for a long time.
I like how you describe that. Character actor for conventions. Some people would call that cosplay.
Well, I've been a guest at the convention to be the Joker like all day.
Yeah.
So I'm not there to just have fun. I'm there to actually perform for the convention.
I love that idea. I love creating that label.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Well, it's a little bit more accurate when you are performing for a client, if you will.
Yeah.
Someone's there. They want you to help promote the convention. They're trusting you to make sure everybody's having a good time. They're there to help. Maybe the celebrities need somebody to help out, things like that, you know. So it's a little bit different.
Awesome.
Nothing wrong with cosplay whatsoever, but it's like when you're doing it for the client,
a different level.
The convention thing. It's a different thing. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just
You're more like a Disney cast member than a convention goer.
Some friends of mine went to the St. Louis, what was it back in the day? Six Flags. And they had a Joker there. And they walked up and went, not the Jowers, bye. Just stick the two.
Well, guys, I'm gonna sign off into the back office. I'm gonna leave it up to you to guide our viewers through voice acting as people comment. And our viewers can comment. Kristen and I will post comments like this one from Keisha Acuff that says, I need to get a hold of you beautiful people and find out how to voice act. Well, that's what this panel is going to be about, Keisha. So stick around. And as I post comments from the back room, if you guys will just acknowledge and answer those questions, that'll be great. But I'm going to turn it over to you for a few minutes. And I'm going to use the restroom because I've been sitting here in the beanbag chair for the last 2 hours.
Go stretch your legs, please.
Do what you need to do, man. Do what you need to do.
Okay.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'd like Lauren, if you would go ahead and give a little bit more about your working credentials.
Okay. Everything I've done pretty much is at my website, lwsalinas.com. But in short, I podcast. I do a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast every Thursday called Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. I voice act mostly for audio dramas, although, like, I've been just recently, I was in one called Feminist Fairy Tales as a grandmother and also a bird. So that was a lot of fun. I highly recommend it, by the way. My story arc was called Lena. And I have actually been in an anime now. Last year, I was a teacher, Kirishima, in the anime Kageki Shoujo on Funimation.
Nice.
Oh, what else? I just got an agent. It's a very recent thing, like a week ago. I'm very happy. And I have more than 30 audiobooks to my name right now on Audible or anywhere you can get audiobooks. Mostly romance, but I'm okay with that. It's actually a lot of fun to read. And yourself?
Well, that's like what I say. I'm a semi-professional voice actor. My credits are more in the nonprofit side. For over 10 years, I've been a voice actor for Chatterbox Theater, which is a very professional audio theater company that was based out of Memphis. And when that closed down, the amazing writer and director Bob Arnold created a new project to do smaller but still very high quality, very professional work of original ideas, focusing on original concepts. And that's called Spoken Signal Radio, that has just now started. And I've been in 2 projects of theirs. So that's what I've been doing voice acting wise. I have my own podcast called The Confession of Johnny 8 that you can reach on almost any platform possible. I've done some commercial work for people, providing voiceovers, a lot of Indiegogo campaigns, a lot of artist friends asking for help. And for my voice acting, I've also worked with some of the big names through convention work. Joe Thorsteden, who ran Memphis Comic Fantasy Convention, I had a very big focus on voice acting. So I got a chance to work with Jess Harnell. I got a chance to work with, oh, come on, Chris, SpongeBob.
Tom Kenny.
Thank you, Tom Kenny. I've got to work with some all the way up to Mr. John Delancey Q himself was the last.
Very nice.
So I got to work with some very professional people.
So I guess we should start with how we got into voice acting. That's the number one thing people ask is, how do you get into voice acting? And the correct answer is, we can only tell you how we got into it. Let's start with you, because mine's a bit complicated.
Mine was basically by luck, but that's the great thing about voice acting over traditional acting is there's so many avenues to get into voice acting. Chatterbox was having open auditions for a live stage production of Argonautica. They're going to do a live audio, old school radio play, all of the sound effects by Practical Effects, live music, and live reading on stage. And I just went to the audition. I got to meet everybody. I auditioned that one time and never looked back. I ended up getting the lead of Jason of the Argonauts my first time out, and stayed with the company ever since. And it just opened my eyes to a passion of mine that I always thought. I love doing voices, doing characters and all that, but I just absolutely fell in love with voice acting.
So I always tell people I'm not an actor because I was actually kicked out of drama in high school. I was convinced I'm going to be in science. At first it was I'm going to be a veterinarian, and then it was I am perfectly happy to be doing genetics lab work for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And then I got sick. I have a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disorder, and your body has connective tissue everywhere. So it's like an avalanche of things that keep going wrong. So a 9-to-5 job was no longer feasible. So I spent about a year kind of kicking around. About 2015, right around the time I had lost my job, some friends were starting an audio drama, and they were looking for people who could be just random voices. I'd been podcasting since 2011, so I had the gear, and I said, sure, why not? I'll help you out. And I kept showing up and I kept getting more parts, and I realized I was pretty good at doing quick accent studies. And then finally one day I was listening to an audiobook. I love audiobooks, and I was thinking, how do you start doing audiobooks? So I Googled it, and that led me to a site called acx.com, where you can do indie. It works with Amazon. You do indie audiobooks through there. And I've just kind of never looked back. It just, stuff keeps coming. It's pretty great. I mean, it doesn't keep coming. You have to actually go out and look for it, but it just, I keep showing up and people keep letting me do stuff.
Well, that might be the talent. Now, that just might be me saying that, but it might just be the talent. So one of the things we talked about previously were the different resources, because as I said, and as you just eloquently spoke yourself, is that there's so many different ways to get into this. Audio narration, just having some audio fun with your friends on their podcast. There's so many ways to kind of get into it. But what are the actual resources? Like
okay, again, it depends very much on what you want to do, what you want your niche to be. Like, I've started this past year or so trying to look into how to do audio description for TV shows and movies and things like that. Mm-hmm. And it turns out there's whole, areas for that. You can, Facebook tends to, I hate Facebook, but it does tend to be an incredible resource. You can find so many groups there dedicated to whatever little niche you want to do, whether it's video games or commercials, audio description, audio books. There's even, and I've looked into this now, but I've only just found out about it. You can get a job as a prompter, like somebody who reads somebody's lines and then they're the ones who say it, but they need somebody to give them a clear read. And it saves having to use like a teleprompter, or if it's like a live show, and just to make sure that the lines go. And that's really, I think, the key is figuring out what niche you want to be in. Because animation's fun. Animation is great. But it's also an extremely competitive field. That said, I highly recommend things like there's a site called Casting Call Club, where people can post little projects. Most of them don't tend to be paid. I generally don't recommend taking non-paid things because you will die of exposure and the old Oregon Trail adage. But it is a place to get experience. You could also look up things on Fiverr if you want to do more commercial type work. There's people asking for explainer video narrators. There's people wanting people for phone trees. Other places you can look. Again, ACX for narration. Oh, Twitter has been invaluable to me. Follow some voice actors that you like, particularly indie voice actors in whatever you want to do, whether it's indie video games, animations, whatever. The community tends to be very kind and cross-pollinating, so people will retweet auditions. There's even dedicated Twitters for that, which I am currently looking up. Let's see. There's things like... Oh, it helps if I actually had this. Anyway, get back to me on that. I will make a list and let people know.
And one of the things you can add to that is, if you're looking for voice acting experience, that look for those small dramatic groups that are doing it on their own. And sometimes looking up voice acting is not going to not going to be. You want to look up audio plays. You want to look up radio plays, radio play communities, radio play. There's a ton of things on Facebook, Instagram. Instagram's great because you can post audio. You clip it into just a picture, so you can go ahead and get things out there. You can listen to what people are looking for. So, but what I say is, when you look at these organizations and they might have an open casting call, especially once COVID kind of changed the game. Because if you have great equipment and a good sound, they'll listen to you. Look at the site, look at the productions, see how professional it is. There's nothing wrong with just busting your teeth open on some amateur work, just with your friends getting together, doing a D&D podcast or something like that. There's no harm, no foul with that, to kind of feel comfortable and work on character, work on your equipment, all that kind of stuff. But there is a point where you really want to start looking for that professional, doesn't have to be paid stuff, but professional sound. You want your library. I am very lucky that if somebody says, well, what's your body of work? Chatterboxtheater.org. You can look up Chris Jowers. You can look up my work. It's the list of everything that I've been in. There's the list, and every single one of them is professional level. So you really want to start building a resume like that. And those resources are out there. It just takes a lot of Google mining and a lot of work to kind of find that.
And never discount creating your own content, because, again, COVID changed the game in a lot of ways, because a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of people started doing what I did and looking for, well, I like this thing. How do you do this thing? And so it's become a very flooded field in a very short amount of time. But creating your own content, things like maybe starting a YouTube channel, a TikTok, a tabletop game streaming, just streaming on Twitch, whatever you want to do, it's a way to find your voice. It's a way to sort of stretch your creative wings. And it's something that you can point to people to say, hey, here's an example of a thing that I've done. Maybe you want some more stuff like this.
Definitely.
Yep.
And now you guys have gotten an idea about online resources, about what's out there, let's really talk about the skeleton of this whole thing, which is your equipment. You can be Robin Williams, but if you cannot record good sound, you're never going to go anywhere.
Yes.
Either in the amateur level, the fun level, people are very picky now. As Lauren said, it changed the game. So even you as a fan know that if you watch your favorite podcast and the audio is off, you might turn off the podcast because you're so in tune now to hear really clear sound, because everybody is. And the good news is you don't have to spend a lot of money to make professional sound, but you do have to be careful.
Yes, you don't want to, the minute that you get the idea, I want to do voice work, you don't want to jump in and buy, a $400 mic and just all of the equipment. You kind of want to start. It's like leveling up. You get your starter gear, and then for with me, at least for the first several years that I started doing this, all of my profits went into things like buying a better microphone, buying a better mixer. I'm going to plug a friend of mine. He's also the producer of the podcast that I'm on. He's a good friend. There's a podcast called Better Podcasting, and it's actually geared towards hobby podcasters. So they let you know, hey, here's what this gear is at this price level, and you can actually hear for yourself how it sounds. And they've been just invaluable to me, because honestly, I know very little about the actual mechanics of how sound works, but I know what sounds good. And that's the thing. You need to find, there's good $50 mics out there. Yeah, exactly. Everyone starts out with the Blue Yeti. I started out with an AT, I think 2020 back in the day, which is Audio-Technica, which is a pretty good brand. But yes, everyone starts out with the Blue Yeti. It's affordable. It's got pretty decent sound quality.
This one is so old. This is a snowball.
Oh, geez. I
So
haven't. Yeah.
this was at the time an $80 purchase that I got, and it gave me impressive sound quality for that time. It wasn't exactly professional, and I had to learn how to manipulate distance to the mic, how I addressed it. There's so many little tools you need to learn
Mm-hmm.
just outside of the equipment. Now, for my personal use, what I use now, which now has given me fantastic quality, it was a Rode mic, or a Rode mic, RODE, by the way. It was on
Yes.
Amazon. It was a kit that came with a phone screen on the back.
Was it the NT one?
I believe it's the golden one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I use a Rode NT, the previous model.
And they work great,
They
but
really do.
when I plugged it into my new laptop, the sound quality was terrible. When I plug it into my old laptop, it's great. So there's weird little things like that. Sound is so tricky. Now, just basic level mic, you want a mic, you want a mixer that
Yes.
plugs into. You do not want a mic if you're looking to really do professional quality or really good quality. You want to have sort of a mixer that's going to plug into. So that's going to help clean up the sound. That's going to allow you to easily manipulate the gain on the sound, the volume on the sound, if you will, without it hitting your spikes. It's going to help you control those spikes a lot. So there's a lot of things. And all the terminology we're talking here, Google.
Yeah. Google, YouTube. YouTube has been amazing for me to try and figure out, okay, what am I doing here? What are the best settings for X mixer? What mixer do people like? What microphones do people like? There's so many people on YouTube who their whole channels are just, here's how to use this very specific piece of equipment, and here's some tips and tricks. In addition to having a mixer, I have a preamp, which is, it clears up some stuff. It can filter out like background sounds. It's definitely a must get if you're somewhere without the best audio insulation. I used to record in my living room, so I definitely needed it. But it's the basics are microphone, preferably. Don't use a USB mic. The sound, there's stuff that goes into. Yeah,
like I said, this was a great start, but I get way better quality. I have professional quality on a minimal setup now.
Yeah, it's called an Xlr mic. I'd show you, but I'd need to unplug my microphone to show you. But it's a bigger plug, and it's more like a wall socket plug in that it has like prongs that you put into a place. And that's what mixer's for, is to take that and take it to your computer. Ooh, and other than that, I was going to go to sound treating, but yeah.
Well, one thing also we probably should touch on is software.
Yes.
And I have been using Reaper. That's my personal preference, but also Reaper. Well, you can download Reaper, which is a professional level software that the people in the industry do use this program, and you can download it for free for your personal use. Now, if you're going to make money off of it, if you're doing actual projects, I think it's $60. Now, if you're a company, it's a little bit more. But this is an amazing, complex software suite that is very easy to use. And I highly recommend it if you're starting out, because you don't want something that's too simple. You do want something that's going to give you a lot of options when it comes to playing with sound, because that's going to free you up real fast.
Yeah, Audacity is, I feel like, how everyone gets started. I still use Audacity for certain things. It's pretty customizable. You can download all sorts of plugins to help you out, and it's free. There has been some controversy with them this past year about them like giving your data to people. So people have been leaving Audacity. I'm just not updating it and just continuing to use it for podcasting and for when I need to adjust silences between stuff when I'm doing audiobooks. It's just, I have the hotkeys there set up. It's easy. Yeah. What I use right now, it's called Studio One. It's pretty expensive, but they hold a lot of sales throughout the years. I know it's what a lot of audiobook people use. There's actually a man, Don Barnes, Baarns, who does a whole course on how to use Studio One, various tips and tricks, various settings. If you buy his course, you get a bunch of templates that he's made that have various like settings to try and just get the best performance out of whether it's voiceover, narration, music. Again, it's expensive, but it's also really convenient. There's so much once you get it's a bit of a learning curve, but once you get over that curve, it's so good. And I edit in it's called iZotope RX8. I'm using the kind of the step up from very low cost version. When you do, it's like the lowest, the Elements is, I think it's like $20 normally, and you get a whole bunch of plugins that you can use for Audacity, things like a de-esser and a noise gate and just some really useful little cleanup tools. And again, it's expensive, but worth it for me because it makes editing extremely easy. That's one thing. If you get into audiobooks, if you get into anything, editing adds at the very least 3 times the amount of time that it takes. Say you're doing a 1-hour audiobook, which very short. You're going to do at least 3 hours total work on that, including, going back, editing, proofreading yourself. This is all assuming that you're doing stuff yourself and you're not working with an editor or someone like that, in which case you are extremely lucky and I envy you.
It's the different when you're doing voice acting because it is someone else's job that does everything, but you can be called back. Hey, you remember that great job you did on the villain? Yeah, I'm going to need you to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to redo that entire performance because something happened.
Yep.
And you have to go, well, okay, I'll get it done. That's not a problem. You can't be like, well, that's not, man, I gave you my art. No, you have to get it done. You have to get it finished.
Yeah. Other big, if you're going to take anything away from this panel, you got to treat it like a business. It's fun, but it's work. You got to treat things like a business. Don't get too attached to any one project. You will hear a lot of no or just mostly never hear anything back at all. But when it's firing on all cylinders, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And actually, that bleeds right into our next topic of professionalism in voice acting.
Hey, Lauren and Chris,
yes.
we're at the half-hour mark, and I would just ask for people who are just now joining us, let's restate the name of your panel and the purpose for people who are watching, who are just now joining us, and just restate who you are and a little bit about your credentials for brand new viewers.
Good idea.
Okay, well, this panel is called Voice Actors Unite. Me and Chris are both voice actors. I do more audiobooks. I just did an anime. All of my stuff can be found at my website, lwsalinas.com.
I'm Chris Jowers. I'm more of a conventional voice actor. All my work can be found at chatterboxtheater.org and Spoken Signal. And I've also worked with some pretty big names in the voice acting community before. So what we're talking about, what we have been talking about is how we got into this field. Lauren has obviously been talking about how she got into this business and really got into it. And how I was able to basically turn what used to be just a hobby into a big part of my life. And what we're about to branch into is when you're looking at this, not just as a hobby, but as a job, there is an air of professionalism we feel that we need to touch on, because in the voice acting community, this is a job like any job. It doesn't matter that you are basically an independent contractor or you're picked up by a studio or you're just working for somebody's company to do a couple of lines for a monster or the hero. There's a level of professionalism that you have to follow that is going to equal success for you. where other people will fail, especially, and you have seen it where people that were once great voice actors have no career now because of their personal choices. So we want to help you avoid that completely. And one that's come up, and it's actually come up again in theater, it's come up again on screen, it's about representation.
Yes. Okay.
Very important.
I am queer, disabled, and Chicana. So, yes, I am all about representation. There's been a lot of discussions recently about, hey, white voice actors have been doing these Apu. Apu is the example there.
Mm-hmm.
And Apu, the thing about Apu is he's a stereotype. And he was voiced by Hank Azaria, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So the whole thing is any entertainment industry, particularly voice acting, tends to be a lot of, well, who do you know? Who's the first person you think of when you think of this? And the only way that you can become one of those who do you know people is by getting jobs. And in stories with minority characters, it's so rare for people, historically, for people with that actual lived experience to be able to do those parts. And now when, you have unprecedented access to equipment and to casting and to creating, marginalized people are wanting to tell their own stories. They're wanting to see themselves on screen. The only, Hispanic characters that I saw on screen for years was like Edward James Olmos in Stand and Deliver. That was kind of it. And that's, if you're a 4-year-old girl, you can't really relate that much to Edward James Olmos. Love the guy, but And nowadays, you're having things like The Owl House. Recent example, Encanto.
Yeah.
It's about a Colombian family. It was voiced by actors who are all Colombian descended. It's, Moana voiced all by people who were Polynesian descended.
Mm-hmm.
And it's beautiful when you get authentic representation. I can't tell you how much it means to be able to see yourself and realize this is exactly what I needed when I was young.
And remember, whatever job that you take is on your resume. The part that it is, what you're doing. That's how, on a very, very, very simplified level, that's like when actors get into horror for the first time. That's what they do. Because, okay, you're this actor, you can be this terrible person. But when you're a voice actor, you have to keep that in mind. What's the part? What's it supposed to be? Can I do this? Mm-hmm. And it's not about acting talent. There's plenty of voice actors out there of any color that can mimic any accent and voice perfectly, that you would not be able to tell the difference. But that's not what it's about. It's about
I would never be able to convincingly play a trans person because it's just, there's nuances there that I don't have that experience. There's plenty of books and things that I just don't audition for because it's a specifically Black story and I don't have that lived experience. Mm-hmm. I know, you can go on and on and on about acting and you're supposed to, be able to be somebody that you're not. Yeah. And but the thing is,
you're not,
in my opinion, in my opinion, once there's not an issue with people of whatever minority group finding and playing and telling those stories, once that's become more of an equal thing, then there's time to have that discussion of, okay, well, now we can open it up a little more.
Yeah.
But until then, people need representation. People need to be able to see themselves on the screen, whether it's through, metaphorically. Again, I brought up Owl House. Owl House has a pretty good disability metaphor there. Encanto even has a really good disability metaphor there. But it's not, if somebody was, and metaphor is one thing, but in movies like, there was a live action movie called Me Before You, where the actor was supposed to be in a wheelchair, and it wasn't a wheelchair using actor. It was, I don't remember his name. He's pretty, and anyway, and it's not the same. You get it? It's yeah, there's so much nuance and that people are missing out on by not seeing that thing represented accurately. You had for years through the 90s and stuff, the very stereotypically gay, swishy, usually voiced by a straight person or a straight presenting person. And now you're finally starting to see gay people, queer people tell their own stories. And it's awesome. It's, again, it's the stuff that I needed as a kid. But, you know, we're moving in the right direction. It's always a bit slow, but we are moving in the right direction on that. And I am so proud of the industry for acknowledging that and actively starting to look for new voices for people who haven't had the chance to tell their stories. It doesn't really mean, oh, there's less for me. It means there's more for everyone.
And the field is, again, just opening up with opportunity. Animation is just one small branch of voice acting. That radio plays, audio dramas are coming back. In England, they're a huge part of popular culture. They play them on the regular radio all the time. Some of the best comic book adaptations come out of the BBC.
Their Neverwhere adaptation was amazing.
There's just tons out there. So what we're trying to just remember, be professional. That's what we're saying, because it goes down to also like how you interact with your fellow cast members, how you talk with the director. I don't care if you're doing a D&D tabletop game or you're doing a full production. Remember to have an air of professionalism about you, making sure you're ready to go. Your voice, your instrument is ready to go at all times, you know? And that's another thing. Hydrate, please. Always make sure you're hydrating while you're voice acting constantly.
Yes. once you start editing your own thing, once you get over, you know, the whole, oh, I can't, the way I sound is weird, you get over that real quick once you're editing. But the bane of my existence is dry mouth voice, like mouth smacks. It's horrible and I hate it. And I hate myself for doing them, but it's something that you can't really avoid. Your mouth just makes weird movements that you're not aware of until you are.
When you do live, like radio drama, what a lot of people don't know is there is a skill you learn of which water bottles to get. If you're safe enough, you have a cup. But you have to, like, if I'm addressing the mic, I have to come down here like this, drink, and then I have to come back up because you don't want any slight sound. But you have to drink. You have to have something.
Yes.
It's terrible. And there's so many great resources.
There are. Throat coat tea has been my savior for long recording sessions. It's kind of marshmallowy flavored. I really recommend the, I think it's called Yogi. I think that's the brand. Their version is very marshmallowy.
Marshmallow.
Yeah, it's like marshmallow and like licorice root and some other stuff. It's actually really good. It's fantastic. Sound treating. That's something Acuff Creation mentioned. Having kids in the background sounds like it's going to be rough. Yes. For a while there, I mentioned that I was recording in my living room. I was living in an apartment at the time, and my upstairs neighbors had an untrained husky who would scream constantly. And it was terrible. Kind of the easy thing is to record in a closet. It doesn't even have to be, you know, a sound treated closet. You can go, just recently, the extended voice actor cast for The Legends of Vox Machina was released. And they had some behind the scene footage, and you see some very professional voice actors recording in just a literal closet surrounded by clothes. You want things that muffle sound. You want things that absorb sound.
Mm-hmm. I live out in the country. There is one road that goes in front of my house, and I put together in this little closet back here. I've got some sound baffling. My mic, you can't see it; it's in a corner, and that mic is basically surrounded by sound baffling.
Yeah, I have all of this sound treated, and I still have this little mic shield just to be kind of double sure.
Oh, one of the best things to do, my friends, is when you're getting ready to start this and you have your gear set up, hit record for a minute. Don't say a word.
Yes.
And listen to what your mic is picking up. I've had to redo lines because my hand tapped the wall while because I'm of the Mark Hamill school. I'm going to perform while I'm doing my voice acting. So that's come of a few times where I've hit stuff, and it can just be simple. Your pants, what you're wearing.
Yes. Oh my God. You never realize how much your clothes make noise. I tend to wear like leggings and a sleeveless shirt when I'm recording. Just, whatever you can do to reduce the ambient noise.
Footwear.
Oh God. Yeah.
Footwear.
Right now I'm sitting in a seat that, swivels. And if I'm recording sitting down, I need to be careful about that because that gets picked up. Record naked. I mean, I've done that before. Yeah, it just sometimes it's one of the things that they don't tell you about voice acting is the weird accommodations that you'll start to make. I've gone door to door to my neighbors when I lived in an apartment saying, I'm recording a death scene. Please don't call the cops.
I recorded a Joker bit for a project for my friend, and it was a summertime, so I opened the window. But my brother and I lived in a rural area. I had a power drill, and I was doing the voice work of the Joker killing somebody with a power drill, of the laughter, of the crazy laughter, and then the screaming for the guy getting all that. Well, my neighbor's kids were playing basketball. And I didn't know that. They came out to play basketball, stopped, went right back inside the house. So you do have to be aware of your surroundings. You do have to be aware also of what your voice and how far it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes what you think is, well, nobody can hear me. That might be what sets off the noise complaint, or people start banging on the walls and all that. If you're living in an apartment, this is a very difficult hobby to do.
It's not impossible.
Not impossible.
Especially if, maybe you're working from home, because if they go to work during the day, hey, that's some free time you have right there to record.
Mm-hmm.
You can record at night, but you kind of got to be careful with the louder stuff at that point. I've recorded at like 2 a.m, but ended up having to stop because of a particularly loud scene. We're at the 20-minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to start taking more questions from the crowd? Yeah, make sure smoke detector batteries are replaced regularly. Bane of my existence.
This will be the bane of your voice acting existence. There is a wonderful thing that's called Do Not Disturb on most phones.
Yeah.
Please make people aware of when you're recording or anything like that.
Or just leave it outside of the room.
I have text sometimes for scripts. I'll use it. But
in that case, definitely do not disturb airplane mode.
Oh yeah. You gotta be careful with airplane mode, because that will not stop the actual phone and text messages from working.
Yeah.
Those will still come through. So there's little things. Oh, and if you leave it in the other room, make sure it's on silent, because you don't want to be at the end of your dramatic scene and hear it. And then, well, you got to do the
phone in the other room. Yeah, very much so. So many things that when I didn't realize that like my phone was in my pocket, and then all of a sudden because I always have my phone on silent, all of a sudden just the buzz, and gets picked up. And
you also, it's vibration, bass will pick up. So you'll think, oh, I can't hear it. And then when you record, you're going to hear on the mic. You got to be super careful. All right. So like you said, Lauren, I guess we'll do some questions and answers, and then any helpful, funny tips that we've come up with along the way, probably.
Thank you, Kristen Marie in chat, by the way. Sam Claflin was in Me Before You. Claflin? Claflin? I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. But yes, that was him. Very pretty, but not a wheelchair user in real life. Well, while we're waiting for questions, just real quick, cold look at the business aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers, it's a numbers game. You're just throw out every audition that you can. Don't expect to hear back so that it's a nice, pleasant surprise. You don't want to pin your hopes on a part and then be disappointed. It's very disheartening when that happens. You got to kind of learn to let it go. Again, professionalism. Be on time, meet your deadlines, communicate with your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Be the person that you would want to come back and work for you.
And one of the things I have discovered by boredom was learning your real range.
Oh, yeah.
I have pretty much been the villain in almost every single.
Yeah, I tend to be the mom, the grandma, the aunt. Here's a question. I don't know if I missed it while dealing with the toddler. What was your favorite project you've worked on? Oh, okay. I know mine.
Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So one of my more recent things, it's been, I think it was in 2020. I did the first of a series about kind of intergenerational trauma and sexual abuse. And it's a very, very heavy story. But at the same time, it was also one that made me feel extremely represented. It was just a good story. It's called Complicit. Mm-hmm. And I think the author is Amy Rivers. And it was a very heavy performance. It was extremely wrenching. It was one of those ones where, you're done recording, you have to go get a hug. But I absolutely love being able to just kind of wallow in negative emotions. It's very cathartic for me. And
well, I have two, but they're dramatically different reasons. One was because it was very personal. My brother, a friend of mine who I've known since elementary school, was serving overseas in Afghanistan. And so I put together a voice acting crew of his family and friends, and we were the inmates of Arkham Asylum. And we did Arkham for America, letters to the troops from the inmates of Arkham Asylum. So the Joker, Killer Croc, Bane, and only myself and one other person had any theater background. Everyone else were just his friends and family. And we put together these little 5-minute skits for each person and sent it over there. And it not only did he love it and did it brighten his day, it circulated through the Air Force like a wildfire.
I'll have to. Do you remember what year that was? I have a friend who was in the Air Force.
Let me see. I was back from, that would be 2004, 2005, somewhere around there.
Okay, it was before she joined up.
Yeah. So it was very, I would say early days, but it was in sort of the middle. And
it's so weird to think of 20 years ago. I hate time.
For acting reasons, it was Argonautica. I was live. It was an honest live radio play. We had our scripts in our hands. We had our timing and our cues. We had to do everything at the same time with music and sound effects. And it was the first time I did anything like that. And that's what hooked me. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing also about professionalism. I was the lead, if you will, of that ensemble. I never considered myself the lead, but I was Jason of Jason and the Argonauts. I went from that part to doing this guy and this person are doing sound effects. Whatever they asked me to do, I said yes. I didn't care how small the part was because I loved doing it. But I was the most booked actor at Chatterbox. And other people were like, why are you always getting in the Chatterbox shows? And Bob finally said, because Chris always says yes.
Yeah, exactly.
If I need to run the soundboard, run the soundboard. I need you to be this villain who gets beat up. Okay, I'll be the villain that gets beat up. I need you to be this little 2-second character, say these 3 lines, basically. Sure, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Again, just if you keep showing up, People are gonna. It's because people like working with you, and by doing, all the parts. Maybe you wanted to be a lead, maybe you wanted to be a villain, and you get cast as, henchman number 3.
Make henchman
Make
number
it your
3
part.
good.
Just have fun with it. Do it. Do it enthusiastically and see what you're called back for next time.
And Willow, animals are definitely a problem. Cats and dogs, pets in general, but also like I live rurally. One of the things I have to worry about is animal noises I have no control over.
Mm-hmm.
Deer can come right by the house and they'll be quiet 99.9% of the time, and every once in a while.
Yep.
I
have an horrible little orange cat who does not like being alone. He doesn't necessarily want your attention, but he wants to be in the same area as you. And he likes trying to get in my recording closet. And sometimes it's fine. I'll let him in. He'll just fall asleep. But there's always just him pulling at the door.
Yeah.
The dog that I adopted, I was looking very specifically for a quiet dog. And he's been fantastic. He sleeps all day. He's a wonderful, quiet dog. But yeah, there's some things that it's kind of like writing. You sort of have to make your time and make everyone else respect it, which is hard.
Or do audio work to get started where those things aren't a stumbling block. If you're my podcast is called The Confession of Johnny 8, and it's supposed to be someone recording a confession into a handheld recorder. So if there's ambient sound and I react to it, I just stay in character and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So use that, incorporate that into something where you can kind of get your comfort level. One thing I would love to tell people, by the way, I did this as a joke one day when I started teaching. I moved away from Memphis. I wasn't doing Chatterbox anymore. Everything was going remote, and I was missing voice acting. So what I did was, hey, does anybody need an uplifting voicemail today? Choose your character request below. My range of voices has increased 10 times what it used to be.
Oh, yeah. You definitely always push yourself.
They're like, oh, do this. And here's the thing. If you're doing it for fun, I literally would grab my phone and go, Dark Side. I've never voiced Dark Side before. I would pick my phone up and I would improv a Dark Side thing into my phone.
Yeah, there's no rule that says that you can't just have fun with your voice in your own damn house. Back of the Cereal Box posted, in Nashville, Jason Marston built a soundproof booth in his house. Yes, there's instructions for how to do those online. It's a lot of PVC pipes and moving blankets. Mm-hmm. I'm the person who wants to build stuff but doesn't always succeed. So I decided, when we moved, I'm just going to claim a closet. But yeah, you can even, I know I've done this before, having to record something on the road. Get your phone and just go underneath a like a futon or those big blankets,
moving blankets,
duvets.
Moving blankets, by the way, are if there's something like that, because they're thicker.
Yes,
thicker, and they'll be able to catch the sound. Yeah,
yeah. But in a pinch, throwing a blanket over your head and recording. That's how I started out. I was doing that in the heat of Texas. Oh, I got heat stroke one time. It was not great. Orange Cats likes to scream. It's not just mine that's vocal. Yeah, he's a bit of a jorts.
Oh, that is one of the things about voice actors that we're all aware of in the field. You're going to have to turn off your HVAC. So that means no AC, no heat for however long you have to record, because no matter what you think, it's going to get picked up by the mic.
Yep.
Period.
Back of the Cereal Box said, can you both give a quick demonstration, I guess, of just kind of messing around with our voices?
Okay. Does anybody have any requests then?
Yeah.
Let's do it this way. Does anybody have any requests for voices?
I'm not good at impressions, but I can do accents and I can do character types.
I have been challenged to do some of the most ridiculous things.
I guess, second or third book I ever did was all in an Australian accent.
All right. So actually, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this as
Okay.
an example. So the Joker has been done expertly. Lucifer. No one ever says Jesus. So the one thing I'd love to talk about doing the Joker is do your version.
Yes.
When you do these voices, unless you're trying to mimic someone perfectly, do your version of that character. My version of the Joker that I do at conventions is Mark Hamill inspired because he can go from evil to fun. So what I do is, first of all, I define the character. I like to go down deep inside. Whoop, went too far. There's the wood chipper. I hope you're having a pleasant day. So he lives there rent free. He's there absolutely rent free all the time. All right, Lauren, what's one of the characters that you've done for audiobooks? Is there an audiobook type character that you enjoy? Is there like a little chestnut voice you have that you like to pull in every once in a while?
Okay, one of my favorites was a very Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development type of character. And to get in that, I would always just put my hand out here like I was holding a martini glass. And you kind of slur your words a little because God knows that she's not going to be sober at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
It's, you can play with physicality. I know Deborah Wilson is known for being she gets into the character. I took a workshop with a voice director at Blizzard once, and she was talking about how for creature noises, Deborah Wilson's just like crawling everywhere, getting into the physicality of it. And it's a lot of fun.
No one recognizes that name. She was one of the absolute talents and legends of Mad TV.
Yes. Yes.
Epic.
She's amazing. She's been a voice in everything that you love. She's wonderful. Riley Lifestyle is asking for you to do Stitch.
So, okay, Stitch is actually one that I do a complete imitation. I do not do my own Stitch. I love doing this one. Hannah is family. This is my family. It is small and broken, but good. Yeah, good.
Oh.
I used that voice on an ex-girlfriend of mine, and she hated it. Because they had these little Stitch puppets at Blockbuster, so I would pop the Stitch up.
Puppeteering, that's another thing that's kind of... I love puppets. I wanted to be a Muppeteer when I was a kid, and now it's like, well, I can make my own and do a little... Yeah. I've done that before on various shows.
Willow wants to hear your Southern housewife.
Well, it's, you do just a little bit, not too much, because, that's just kind of, you don't want to do too much into it. But this is very much like one of my coworkers at my former job. And you always want to be grabbing things from people around you that it's kind of like being a writer in that regard. You always keep a little memory bank of how people talked, how people say things. One of the reasons I love watching Letterkenny is their accents are captivating to me.
Redneck Canadian. You gotta love it.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Because it looks like we are.
Yeah, we're at time. So last question. Anyone?
Anybody else?
Going once, going twice. Already did the Southern housewife.
Get together, John.
You are muted.
Oh yeah, no, that was me. I'll take credit. I was taking the reins because our panel's coming up next. So
yeah, Kelly, your hair looks gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you.
John, your beard looks divine.
Yes.
You know what?
Just luscious.
It's gold today. You can't really tell, but we had Carol Baskin on our show this morning.
For real?
Yeah. She showed up an hour late, but she did show up. And that was my fault. Google Calendars is not a thing that I'm good at. But I colored my beard gold just for her. And because normally, Lauren, it's like hot pink or purple, or like last week it was dual colored, blue and red for my
Yeah.
Harley Quinn cosplay.
Excellent. Well, what's the point of, having faces if you can't be, a little creative and accessorize with them?
That's right. That's right. Hey, you guys were great. Thank you so much for such a great panel.
Yeah, I'm always available if you have any questions. The easiest way to reach me is on Twitter, where I'm at Sithwitch. Again, all of my stuff's on my website. You can also contact me through there. And I am always, always, always happy to help people out.
Same here, at the Jowers on Instagram and TikTok. You can find me on Facebook as well. The Confession of Johnny 8 is on pretty much all streaming platforms, and my novel Lostborn is available on Amazon.
Thank you both. You guys.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for all you did. And Lauren, I'm going to be bugging you to actually do just a standalone fan fiction episode, because for anyone who missed it, I wasn't sure if Shauna McGuire was going to show up yesterday, and Lauren was all ready to go with the fan fiction panel because she's amazing. Chris was going to join us. So we're going to make this happen.
I am here for it.
Yeah.
And you guys officially have a stalker, follower. Keisha is going to be following you guys.
Yeah.
Always glad to make more friends.
Yes. All right. Well,
and you will see us later on today at the Wrestling and Comics panel. So we'll see you then.
Yay. And I'm going to drop everyone out and run the prize spiel.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening. See you later. All right. So, as you all know, this is a fundraiser. We're raising fund. We're also raising funds for Valerie Perrine, who is struggling with Parkinson's. And anyone who donates $10 or more, every $10 donation enters you into our prizes. Here is a quick peek at the rules. Also, shares enter you into our prizes. Make sure when you donate or share that you send a screenshot of your donation or your share to phoenixsiscosplay@gmail.com so we can track your donation or share. These are the prizes. We had very, very generous donors. These prizes are pretty awesome. Obviously, the prizes aren't the only reason to donate, but they're the icing on the cake.
The Multiverse Fundraiser is a benefit for Oscar-nominated actress Valerie Perrine. Ms. Perrine is known for her roles in Superman, Slaughterhouse-5, Lenny, and so many more. We've teamed up with documentary director Stacey Souther to raise money for Valerie's medical expenses and other needs. Every donation and every post share gives you the chance to win super prizes. Go to the website listed for details.